Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So today, thank you so much all for coming back from break so quickly. Just want to remind you of the norms when we're having our presentation, that if we're respectful to everything that's going on in the room, and if you have an interruption or need a quick trip out, please do so quietly. We're going to talk today about the function of behavior. In the district, in Southbridge, behavior is a major focus, and we always look at culture and climate, and we try to improve upon that at every turn. So we put a lot of effort into our behaviors, and we're taking a look at what's the function of these behaviors. A lot of teachers want to say all kids are bad. We just have bad kids in the district. Do you ever hear that in your district?
Yes, all the time.
Yeah.
So, or specifically, like this 4th grade class has been terrible from the start. They're going to be terrible for the rest of their lives.
So the outcome of this training, I want like you all to understand that these behaviors don't come from bad kids. These behaviors have a function. There's a reason behind them, and we need to get to the bottom of that so that we can help to prevent these behaviors in the future. So a few examples here. As we said, the function of the behavior is why is it happening? And basically, there's 2 reasons that behavior happens: to get or obtain something, or to avoid or escape something. So this is our focus for our students from this point on. So I'm going to jump into just a few non-examples and see if you can help me figure out what happened here. Lantana, you skipped 2 days of school, so we're going to suspend you for 2 more. Why is that a non-example?
Because they wanted to avoid school, and so they're being rewarded with avoiding school.
Right. I know in the past I've heard teachers say, but she deserved that consequence. She skipped school. When we look at the function, you're right. She wanted to avoid school. She got 2 more days to avoid school. So that was for her behavior. That was a non-example. Floma, I'm going to take your book away because you're obviously not ready to learn. What in that example, why was that not a proper response to that behavior?
Because he's not going to learn without his book. And he's avoiding his work, and then we're just helping him to keep avoiding his work. That's hard for him.
So chances are he didn't want to do the work, and he knew that would be the consequence. And finally, you want my attention? I'll show you attention. Let's take a walk right down to the office and have a chat with the principal. So that student, I'm sure, knew that would be the consequence. So he's now escaped the classroom, escaped the work, and has the negative reinforcer, but it reinforcer from his teacher. So again, the function is the outcome, the result, the purpose, the consequence. So we need to reframe our brains now and determine the function of the behavior so we can figure out how to change that behavior. We call it the ABCs. So the antecedent is the A, and that's what usually precedes or comes before the actual act, the actual behavior. And then we have the behavior. What do behaviors look like? What's happening? And then the C is the consequence and what's going to follow that behavior. So what's the result of that behavior? So if we base this on observing patterns over time, we usually infer the probable function of the behavior. So we'll figure out, are they trying to gain or obtain, get or obtain something, or are they trying to avoid or escape something? So during the teacher lecture, Martha repeatedly and loudly calls out without raising her hand. Each time the teacher gives her a look, a redirection, or occasionally calls on her. In this example, what's the antecedent? What happened before? Sorry.
The teacher's lecture.
Okay, so before she acted out, yeah, the teacher was lecturing. So she had limited attention to that lecture. And then her behavior was what?
Calling out a lot.
Right, didn't raise her hand and continually called out. So the teacher's consequence to her gave her that attention that she wanted. She gave her a look, she gave her a redirection, but Martha knew she had the teacher's attention and that was what she was seeking. So her function was to get or obtain attention from the teacher, and she succeeded. Another practice. When given a difficult writing assignment, Susanna regularly throws her pencil down, rips up her paper, and puts her head down. Her teacher ignores this behavior, and Susanna never completes her assignment. So before, the antecedent was what?
A difficult writing assignment?
Right. And the behavior?
Ripping up her paper, putting her head down.
And then the teacher came with the consequence. She did nothing.
Right.
So Susanna learned very quickly that the function of her behavior was what?
Avoiding the writing assignment.
You got to escape it, right, to avoid that assignment. So we're going to go through a couple of more quick examples, and then we're going to look at what we can put in place, some systems in place to help us to change these behaviors. In the hallway with peers, Tim often teases, trips, or pushes a student who talks and walks a little slower than others. Each time, Tim's peers laugh and pat him on the back. So the antecedent, what happened before the behavior, was that transition with peers. So they're in the hallway. That behavior of teasing, tripping, and pushing got Tim what he wanted, which was the laughs and the pat on the back. So that function of Tim's behavior was to gain peer attention, and he succeeded. When the environment gets too loud, Corey typically slaps his head with an open palm, rocks vigorously, and eventually runs out of the room. The teacher walks him to a quiet office. So before the behavior, that room's loud. It's too loud for him. His behavior is to slap his head, rock, and then run out of the room. And the consequence at the end is to move to that quiet office. So the function of Corey's behavior was to escape the noise, that stimulation. All right, so here's where we can step in and hopefully make some changes to help our children be more successful. By understanding the function, we can intervene more effectively. So when we look at the ABCs now, we want to say, how can we prevent the behavior from coming, from even beginning? What should we teach the student to do instead of that behavior? And how do we respond to make sure that that new skill we taught sticks and really works? If we make simple tweaks to the ABCs, we can prevent, teach, and respond respectfully. So here's a little cute comic to tell us. So let me get this straight. I don't have to cry and yell to get my cookie? So just showing us that we can teach children that if you act appropriately, you can still earn what it is or receive what you're looking for. So back to the Martha example, when she yelled out repeatedly, called out without raising her hand, the teacher would give her a look, a redirection, or occasionally call on her. To prevent Martha from yelling out, what do you think we could have done? We know this is a habit of hers.
Maybe broken down the writing assignment so it wasn't quite as difficult.
Giving her a little attention before the teacher lecture, like just checking in with her individually.
Okay, yeah, so give her some attention and let her know that you realize she's there and you're going to give her that attention she's seeking. What could we teach her? She likes to call out without raising her hand and interrupt often. So what could we teach her?
Raise her hand.
Yeah, teach and prompt hand raising. Just a simple task is that. And then when she does respond, we have to make sure that she understands and give her our attention quickly, that we understand that she's doing the desired activity. So call on her only when she raises her hand, otherwise ignore her. Okay, so simple strategies like this are part of a good tier 1 response to minor disruptive behavior. I'll stop there